Well, thanks for coming this morning, and obviously we had three very important Supreme Court rulings that were issued today. Obviously, I'm extremely disappointed but not surprised that the court sided with Governor Walker once again and the Republicans in their attack on voting rights and collective bargaining. Of course, I am very thankful that in a unanimous decision, they did uphold the important but limited legal benefits for people with domestic partnerships. And with recent federal district court ruling, as well as with the long string of rulings federally as recent as just last week, it appears to me that it's not long before the arc of history will lean towards full marriage equality in this state and in this country. But maybe I'll just start with the fact that on the Voting Rights Act in particular, that's one that we thought perhaps because of the fact that Judge Edelman just ruled within a month earlier on essentially the same questions exactly the other way, and had a very compelling decision that talked about 300,000, as many as potentially 300,000 Wisconsinites. That's larger than the second largest city in this state, 3 times larger than my home community, which is the 4th largest community in this state. 300,000 people potentially could be disenfranchised. And so it's troubling that the Supreme Court did not recognize that. Secondly, Judge Edelman indicated that he could not find one single instance of known voter impersonation occurring in Wisconsin at any time in the recent past. So that decision was somewhat surprising and extremely troubling. So I'd be happy to open up to any questions anybody might have. But there obviously is a pattern here with the Walker administration and the Republicans in the majority to make it harder and harder to have a strong, vibrant middle class in this state or in this country. Whether it's things like tax policy, where they give well over 10 times a tax break to people making over $300,000, and they do the average citizen that they did in the budget. Whether it's decisions such as not extending Badger Care, where middle class workers are going to have to pay more money to cover, tens of thousands of less people. Whether it's decisions such as making it harder for people to afford education for their children, whether it's decisions to not do important steps like increasing the minimum wage or trying to help students with student debt when they're first starting their career. The middle class is at risk in this state and in this country, and these decisions only make it worse. And obviously with the voting rights on the voter ID decision, it's also part of a drumbeat that the Republicans have had. This session, for the second time, they severely limited early voting. They make it harder for seniors and residential facilities to vote, and this is just one more step in that direction. So I think Wisconsinites should be aware that of who's on their side, and clearly this majority is not on their side. So I'd be happy to open up any questions.
Peter, this ruling, Act 10, is it the definitive ruling ends the legal battle over Act 10 and means it's in place for now at least?
I think legally, the sense I have in talking to legal experts, I think there might be one other federal court decision that could be appealed. But for the most part, I think it's very unlikely, given this decision, that would prevail. So it appears that with this court at this time, that issues of free right to association are no longer going to be the rule of the day, and things like home rule, which are greatly in jeopardy with this decision, that will be the rule of the day for the time being, at least legally.
Do you expect Republicans to try and expand Act 10 to apply to police and firefighters in the next session?
I know that certainly there are a number of legislators who have indicated that's their goal, to extend it to police and firefighters. I have no doubt that there will be Republicans that will push for the next session exactly what direction the new legislature and whether or not this governor is still in office will take place. It's hard to tell.
Do you feel like this court ruling is a vindication for Walker's agenda and what he had said all along this was a legal change?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's be clear. There's two issues here. One is whether or not something's constitutional, and the other issue is whether or not it's advisable and beneficial for the citizens of our state. I think it's still very clear that it is not advisable and beneficial for the citizens of this state, for the economy of this state, certainly not for the middle class of this state. Legally, whether it's constitutional, I think they always knew that this court would support whatever they did. So clearly, I guess he can say that this court did find it constitutional. Any other questions?
On voter ID, there was an issue about paying, obviously you can't withhold tax, but what was your understanding of what the court said in terms of paying for ID? Or have you gotten a chance to look at that?
You know, I haven't, unfortunately, I'd be happy to get back to you on that, Mary. I haven't had a chance to look at the specific elements of the ruling yet. So after I have a chance to look at that, I'd be happy to comment on it.
Do you feel like Democrats are disappointed that Mary Burke, or do you feel like Democrats are disappointed on Mary Burke's position on Act 10 and that she does support elements of it?
No, I don't think so at all. In fact, I would say we're very heartened by her support of worker rights and very heartened by her support of having a strong, vibrant middle class in this state. And we look forward to her leadership as governor of this state. We know the middle class and we know the state's economy would fare far better. So, no, I don't think there's any disappointment whatsoever on the part of sort of, you know, mainstream Democrats across the state.
What do you think this does to the cities and groups right now that are still doing collective bargaining, negotiating and contracts?
Well, those that are currently in negotiations, you know, obviously I think they probably would not proceed. Those contracts that are in place, it's my understanding based on the attorneys that we've consulted with that they will remain in place because there's contractual rights that employees have. So, and obviously the law still does allow for collective bargaining up to, you know, that low threshold on wages alone. So that presumably will continue. I don't know if the Republicans will go after that next session as well. I guess we'll find out. Otherwise, thanks for being here. Happy to answer any further questions afterwards.